Hi, everybody. I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live, where you'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the excuse me at for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining me is Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, how you doing?
Doing all right, Frank. How are you? It's been a busy day today, I think.
I need a drink.
I can well imagine. It's
It's
one of
just
those days where a lot of stuff is going on.
it's something new I'm trying. It's Immune Plus tea.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's not bad. Peppermint and some other stuff in there. I don't know. Anyway, it's supposed to. It helps with your immune system.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't drank coffee in a while.
You could call it immunity.
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Um, how could you help yourself?
I couldn't.
There's no way you could have helped yourself. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the news and and
All
and,
right.
and hearty har on Aaron's sense of humor. Oh,
Yeah, it's terrible. I know it's
it
terrible.
was good. It's usually I do that stupid stuff. Okay, let's start with Formula One.
Sure. For those of you who have been following F1, we've actually got an exciting start to this particular season. Alpha Romeo is now called Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber, which is a bit of a mouthful. But also, for those of you who follow Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo, their F1 team has been rebranded as well with their first new global sports sponsorship agreement in over 15 years. Visa will now be sponsoring the Scuderia Alpha Tauri Racing Bulls team. They'll now be known as the Visa Cash App Red Bull Racing. Um, it's a bit of a mouthful. Yeah, I know.
Get
Um,
that on the blazer, will you?
right? Oh, it's gonna be a long one, but the Visa logo will be on all of Red Bull's F1 properties, including Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, as well as the Visa Cash App Red Bull entry in the F1 Academy. So they're going to be getting themselves out there in a big way. They're floating the Visa Cash App Red Bull Formula One team name now, just to see if anybody comes up with a better name for it.
Oh boy, Aaron, at tennis, there's some sort of problem going on at the Australian Open, and I think women are being slighted. Someone's looking for trouble.
Well, there were two matches at Rod Laver Arena um, that lasted more than 3 hours, raising the possibility that the schedule for the Australian Open might not conclude until well into the wee hours of Wednesday morning. Um, so Sabalenka and her quarterfinal opponent, Barbara Krejcikova, declined to make the step down from the 15,000 seat RLA to the 7,500 seat Margaret Court Arena. Um, there's some debate now that's started over this as to whether or not they were asked to move to a smaller arena to accommodate the men, or if it was just, um, yeah, as a result of absolute scheduling chaos over an extremely long men's match. So, uh, I make of it what you will. Sometimes schedules have to be changed to accommodate certain things. It's not a fun situation to be in, but if the alternative is finishing at a reasonable hour as opposed to finishing at 2 o'clock in the morning, speaking personally, I would be okay with moving to a smaller venue, but I may not necessarily if I was in their position. Mm.
I sutured my mouth for that one because that it. I don't have it. That's just it's bizarre.
For sure.
I don't know that. How much does it really matter how many people are in the stands? I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't actually have the attendance numbers here, but um, the whole controversy arose after organizers asked Arina Sabalenka if she was prepared to move to a smaller venue. Um, and again, it was just because the tournament's reasoning is, hey, look, we want to finish on time. Um,
Oh,
I can't honestly say how many people were in the stands and would have had to have been moved, but it
well,
is.
they all would have been. All of them would have had to have been moved if they wanted to follow the same match,
Yeah.
right? So the question then is she doing that because she doesn't feel it's right that there's a lot of reasons why it could happen, and not all of them are bad. Is all why the joke with the suturing. That's why I was joking with the suturing, because really, there's a lot of hanging chads out there that need to be needed. Oh, by the way, Chad's not a person; it's a piece of paper. No, I don't want any cards and letters. You got to go back to Florida election. The guy that
It's a
invented
ways
the
back.
internet, that dude. Okay, let's talk about the NBA and the Cavs and Tristan Thompson.
For those who aren't in the know yet, the NBA has suspended Tristan Thompson from the Cavs for 25 games without pay, and in response to a violation of the league's anti-drug program. Thompson tested positive for 2 banned substances, according to Tuesday's statement from the NBA. Ibutamorin, which is used to promote the secretion of HGH and is prohibited by the league due to its ability to increase lean body mass, and SARM LGD 4033, also known as Ligandrol, which is a selective androgen receptor modulator, another anabolic compound. Now, they don't know how long he's actually been using the drugs for, um, but he's averaged 3.8 points and 3.9 rebounds in 36 games for Cleveland. This is his first suspension. He's forfeiting $726,000 worth of salary.
Yeah, it's almost like a quarter of his season.
Pretty much. I mean,
right. Yeah, give or take a couple of games. That's all. Let's talk about the CFL, and let's start with the Calgary Stampeders.
So a lot of news going on here. First, some sad news, unfortunately. Bruce Covington has passed away at the age of 57. He was an anchor for the Stampeders' offensive line. He won 2 Grey Cups with Calgary in 92 and 98. He was a great teammate and friend. Twice earned West Division All-Star honors and was named a Canadian Football League All-Star in 1993. He played 72 regular season games for the Stamps from 92 to 96 and was voted the league's most outstanding rookie in 1992.
Staying with the Stampeders, fullback William Langley.
They've extended him. He was due to become a free agent on February 13th. At the same time that they signed him, they also signed American rookie offensive lineman Chris Toth. Langley was picked up by Calgary in the 3rd round of the 2015 draft. He'd also suited up for 12 postseason contests with Calgary, as well as was a member of the 2018 Grey Cup winning team.
Let's talk about movement in the management end of the Calgary, always with the Calgary Stampeders. For now, Jay McNeil appointed Stamps president.
Yep, John Hufnagel remains with the team and will assume the role of special advisor to McNeil while he gets accustomed to it. He's also going to serve as a special advisor to Dave Dickinson, who's also the Stampeders head coach.
And GM.
And GM, yeah. Lots of hats.
Yeah, and then they got one guy that is wearing 2 hats, but they're not serious hats. They're just, I'll just put them on when I need it.
Exactly.
He deserves his retirement. A great general manager, a great president, and a great guy that ran the Stamps team that under his watchful eye, very, very successful. Oh boy, another big signing. This one's a big one. Adam Konar.
Yeah,
and
so
Graham.
Yep. Sorry about that. It's sticking on me. There we go. 5 times it's now open. Jeez, are you kidding me? So they signed veteran national linebacker and former U Calgary standout Adam Konar and extended national defensive lineman Elliot Graham. Graham was set to become a free agent on February 13th. Konar joins the Red and White after playing 101 career CFL games over 8 seasons with Edmonton and BC. He's got 221 career tackles, including 3 tackles for loss and 37 special team stops. As for Graham, he's played 25 regular season games and 1 playoff game in 3 seasons with the Stamps since being drafted out of UBC in 2021.
Perfect. Let's talk about the Elks. And they released defensive end Ed Gainey. This guy, every 2 years, he leaves a team. I think it's been 4 teams, 2 years per team.
Well, he's trying to spread out his services amongst all the different ones. I'm curious to see actually where he's going to end up next. He was a CFL All Star in 2017 and 18 with the Roughies, where he had 13 interceptions and 99 defensive tackles. So his services are certainly sought over. I mean, he's played for the Owls, the Ticats, and the Roughies. So now that he's done with the Elks, we'll see where he pops up.
They also signed American Robert Nakamidiche.
Nikomadiche, there we go. Okay,
Also,
he's played with the. Sorry, go ahead.
his nickname is going to be Nike.
Oh, is it perfect?
Nike.
So he's played with the Arizona Cardinals from 2016 to 18, the Dolphins, and the Seattle Seahawks. He had 49 total tackles, 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a touchdown in 59 career games. He is 29 years old, so question of durability does start to enter into it, but looks to be a good pickup for them.
The Red Blacks, they signed 2022 MODP Malden signs 1-year extension.
So at the same day that they actually extended the contract of Bryce Carter, they also announced that they've signed Lorenzo Malden IV to a contract extension. He was the most outstanding defensive player in 2022 after 17 sacks and 43 defensive tackles. So he also had 29 tackles, 5 sacks, and a forced fumble in 2023 through 17 games with the team. Glad to see him get the pickup.
You mentioned Carter. We can finish talking about him. 1-year extension.
Yeah, and again, this is another one of those players where he was set to become a free agent on February 13th. This is, as we've mentioned before, this is basically the CFL silly season. Everybody's coming to be due. Everybody's trying to finalize rosters. He's coming off a sophomore season in which he finished second in the league with 12 sacks in 18 games. So that's a great addition to the back line.
An excellent addition. Let's talk about. I'm lost where we are.
Oh, Tyron Vreedy has a 1-year contract extension with the Red Blacks as well.
Yeah.
The same day that they announced another one where they announced Dominic Rhymes was actually getting a 2-year extension as well. So there's 2 stories wrapped into one for you there, Frank.
Perfect.
Then, Dominique said.
They signed Drew Brown to a 2-year extension.
Yeah, and this is a story that we actually mentioned on Monday, I believe, when Winnipeg granted Ottawa the exclusive rights to talk to him. So Drew Brown won't be hitting CFL free agency. He spent 3 seasons with Winnipeg and won both of his starts last season after Zach Collaros was injured, and now he's been signed to 2 years by the Red Blacks.
Signing of Drew Brown makes them bringing Mazzoli back, I think, doubtful.
It's going to make things interesting for sure. There's going to be a lot of competition out of camp.
Al signed Regis Sibiasu to a 1-year extension.
Yeah, now Sibiasu was set to become a free agent again on February 13th. He had seven catches for 101 yards and a touchdown in 2023. He was in uniform for all 18 regular season games. He's been with them for several years. And he's proven to be a very versatile player and enough to help the team through tough times, said Danny Maciocia. In 23, he always answered the call and did his job the right way. He deserves this vote of confidence. So glad to see him back with the team.
You can add Antwi to the Al's extended players.
Yeah, they gave him 2 years. Now, he's played 3 seasons so far with the Alouettes, so this will bring him to 5. He had 229 yards and a touchdown on 39 carries last year. And in the playoffs, he had the ball 3 times for 16 yards and a major while amassing 2 tackles on special teams. So he seems to be the Swiss Army knife that they need to have.
Let's move over to the Toronto Argos. Argos add Demetrius Maxey and Dominic Picard to coaching staff.
So Maxey's back in the double blue after winning 2 Grey Cups with the Argos during his 5 years with the team. The 2-time CFL All-Star played 67 regular season games and 8 playoff games for the Argos between 96 and 99 and 2002, hoisting the Grey Cup in 96 and 97. As for Dominic Picard, he returns to Toronto as the RB coach. He was a 3rd-round draft pick of the Blue Bombers in 2006. Spent 3 seasons in the Peg before playing 54 seasons, 54 regular season games, sorry, and 2 playoff games in Toronto from 2009 to 2011. Pickard actually finished his stints in Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, and Montreal between 2012 and 2016.
Winnipeg getting a new name for their stadium, Princess Auto. Does that mean everybody's going to be able to park in the stadium?
Either that or find the parts that they need for their cars while they're waiting.
Instead of buy a beer and a car part.
Hey, as long as they're not buying racing straps there, I think they're going to be fine. It's actually a 10-year partnership that marks a significant milestone in the history of the organization. Princess Auto, as many folks know, is a privately owned Canadian retailer, but it was actually founded in Winnipeg in 1933. So there's a local connection there as well. Glad to see them on board.
Very good. Bombers signed 7 American players.
So the players that they've signed are receivers Carrick Wheatfall, Braxton Burmeister, Peter Affel, and Oliver Martin. Kicker Jose Borregales, linebacker and defensive back Marcus Hillman, and defensive end Ali Fayyad. So that's a goodly chunk added to their lineup there.
Perfect. Let's talk about the Riders. Fine first.
Sure. The Riders announced on Tuesday they've signed American quarterback Mason Fine to a 2-year contract extension. Again, silly season. He was due to become a free agent on the 13th. He was thrust into action in Week 6 against the Stamps after an injury to Harris in the fourth quarter and had 6 passes for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. Needless to say, he made a good impression on that part.
Riders also add Freeland.
So they've signed national offensive lineman Logan to a 2-year contract extension. This is at the same time that they announced that they were also going to extend Lothar for another 3 years. Freeland started all 18 games at right guard in 2023 and set a career high in games played. Had the ability to be adaptable as well. As for Lowther, they're bringing him back to a 3-year contract extension. He's going to be with the Roughies until 2026 at least. Over that time, he made 203 of 242 field goal attempts. So that consistency on the back end, I think, is a good indication of why they brought him back.
Let's go to Hockey Canada. There's been a long-running investigation. We've heard leaks and words about things, and the latest leak is...
Well, police in London, Ontario, apparently have set a deadline of February 4th for 5 players who were named in the investigation to surrender themselves to London police. For those of you who have been following the drama elsewhere, you will know that there are certain players that have taken leaves of absence from their teams. So the assumption there is that those individuals will be reporting. Until there's an actual official announcement from the London police, I'm not going to throw any names out there. People are aware if they've been following it who those individuals are, but the rest will come to light eventually.
And we assume it has something to do with an event that took place, and these are the repercussions for what happened.
Exactly.
Let's talk about Utah Jazz owner requests for NHL to initiate expansion process to bring franchise to Utah.
That definitely sounds interesting to me. The Smith Entertainment Group, which also owns Major League Soccer's Real Salt Lake, as well as the Utah Jazz. Apparently, Jazz owners Ryan and Ashley Smith have been in discussions with Gary Bettman since early 2022 about the prospects of bringing a new team to Utah. Now, the NHL has called Utah a promising market and said it looks forward to continuing discussions. However, if approved, SEG says the hockey team would either play at Delta Center, also the home of the Jazz, on a temporary basis, or begin play in the next several years upon completion of a new arena. Here's the thing. They've got to get approval now from the NHL's Board of Governors, and I guess it all depends on how much they're willing to pay to bring a team out there, but it'll definitely be interesting to see.
This is money that doesn't go to the players. I'm just telling a secret. Nobody knows. That money goes straight to the owners. Sens Habs.
So the return of Shane Pinto. This is he was suspended for half of the season for violating the NHL's gambling policies, but he's hit the ground running here. He's been skating with the team, and finally scored his first goal of the season as the Sens beat the Habs for the second time in 6 days with a 4-1 win on Tuesday. Um, Watched part of that game myself last night. It was very entertaining. Um, Shane and Ridley Grieg, Sanderson and Ridley Grieg also scored, while Matthew Joseph added an empty net goal. Ottawa has now won 4 games in 6, and Eunice Corpusalo was on the back end making 25 saves. Now, what's interesting to note here is the Senators have now extended their win streak over the Habs to 8 games, dating back to April 5th, 2022. This was actually the second game in their mom's trip, so it was pretty neat to see.
What were the odds that he would score in his first game?
I wouldn't bet on it personally.
You think we should ask him? Ay. Okay, I'm just kidding. Jeez, send the cards and letters to Eduardo. No,
I think it's interesting to note Montreal went 0-5 on the power play as well. Things have been rough for the Habs so far this year.
They have been playing like the Habnots. Bruins win 5th straight.
So this is a great battle for the top of the NHL here. The Bruins now 1-5. They beat the Jets 4-1 in a matchup of first place teams. It's been really exciting to watch all these teams trading around first, second, and third place. As it currently stands, Boston is actually in second right now with 67 points. Winnipeg is third with 64, and top of the heap are the Vancouver Canucks with 68 points. But in this particular game, Charlie Cole had the tiebreaker late in the opening period, and the Bruins absolutely shut down the Jets. Their defense was impeccable. Jake DeBrusk and Jacob Lauko also scored. Boston is now 10-1-3 in its last 14. Jeremy Swayman on the back end had 20 saves for the Bruins. Vladislav Nemestikov scored for the Jets, who currently lead the Central Division with 64 points, and Connor Hellebuck stopped 17 shots.
Let's talk about the Flame. Oh, no, hey, Jets Kyle Connor named to the NHL All-Star roster as an injury replacement.
Yeah.
He just got back from an injury.
Right. But yeah, he was named to the NHL All-Star weekend in Toronto. He's got 11 assists and 29 points in 28 games. He's going to be making his second All-Star appearance this year. Now, the other news here is Vinny Trocheck was also named to the All-Star roster. They're going to be replacing Connor Bedard of the Chicago Blackhawks and Jack Eichel of the Vegas Golden Knights. Bedard has a broken jaw. Eichel sustained a lower body injury, which is as close as they'll get to defining it, on January 11th, and is weeks a week after undergoing surgery. With Eichel out, the defending Stanley Cup champions Golden Knights won't actually have a representative at the All-Star game this upcoming weekend, February 1st to 4th. So,
Blues, Flames, Brandon Saad had a good game.
Brandon Saad had a great game. He had a couple goals. His second goal of the night was actually with only 48 seconds left in the third period. Absolute heartbreaker for the Flames to lose 4-3 on Tuesday. Braden Shen and Jordan Kyrou also scored for St. Louis, and Jordan Binnington on the back end made 32 saves. For the Flames, Mackenzie Weegar, Noah Hannafin, and Yegor Sharangovich provided the offense. Unfortunately, Calgary's now lost 3 in a row, which puts them in a bit of a tough spot. They were actually leading 3-1 late in the second period before the Blues started to make their comeback. So it was all off a Mackenzie Weegar miscue at the St. Louis blue line that Shen took all the way in for a breakaway.
Oilers win 14th in a row over the Blue Jackets.
Well, the Blue Jackets seem to be everybody's punching bag so far this season. They're sitting back in 29th place. But yeah, with that 14th win in a row now, um, they had Skinner back, stopping them to 27 saves. Warren Fogle and Evander Kane each had a goal and an assist. Um, they're actually closing in now on the NHL record, which is 17 wins in a row, which was originally set by the Pittsburgh Penguins of 1992-1993. The Oilers are actually 22-3-0 in their last 25 games. So that is quite a turnaround for them. They've actually clawed their way all the way up to 10th place.
Yep, they've undone a lot of bad play early. They had a really terrible start. They were going for the first overall pick at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, until I think they finally got a shot in the arm and they realized it was going to
It
be
took
one
the
of those
coaches
things
firing, but whatever effect that had, it was good. Whether
for
it was
sure.
or whatever, it was a wake up call. The Maple Leafs have a goaltender in Samsonov who has had a rough season so far, but it looks like in these last couple of games that he might be rounding into the kind of shape that we're more accustomed to.
Yeah, earlier in the season, he lost his number one job essentially to Joseph Woll and to Martin Jones. Woll unfortunately later got injured, but in his last game, he had a 16 save performance in the 3-1 victory on Sunday over the Seattle Kraken as the starting goalie of note in the second half of the back to back. He also only allowed 3 goals on 20 shots in a 4-2 home loss to the Detroit Red Wings on January 14th. But he said the last couple of months I forgot how to enjoy playing. I just want to enjoy every moment. So uh, good to see him actually get the belt after his last game because he was one of the linchpins for the Leafs win.
Absolutely. The NDP feel the Liberal government is not being transparent. 1,900 healthcare vacancies, Aaron.
Yeah, this is part of an access to information request from the provincial NDP, showing that there are over 1,900 vacancies inside the Newfoundland and Labrador healthcare system. Um, Now, the government has been championing its recruitment and retention of healthcare workers, but the New Democrats are saying, you know, we've looked into this, and according to the NDP, the total number of healthcare vacancies across the province's 4 health zones is actually 1,905. Some of those positions have been unfilled for 154 weeks, or just shy of 3 years. So that is a serious concern, especially when it comes to delivering services. Um, the province is losing almost as many workers as it attracts, and there's got to be something that the Liberal government has to do in order to make sure that that doesn't continue to happen. Now they've tried what's called the Come Home initiative, um, but that so far has only brought 50 doctors back to Newfoundland and Labrador. So that makes things a little bit more difficult. It makes it look a little more bleak.
Um, I got to talk to some of the fundraisers we do here. I've won a few. A couple of drinks, some peanuts, and chocolate bars. But this Beresford couple taking home how much, Aaron? And how did they do it?
So um, they managed to take home $8.2 million as part of a Chase the Ace contest. I know, right? Oh, but you've played Chase the Ace before, yeah?
Nope.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's kind of neat. Basically, what happens is you buy in and you buy tickets, and every week they draw a ticket. And if your ticket comes up, you get to go into their lotto center or where they're doing it and pick a card. Um, if you don't pick the Ace of Hearts, which is the ace that you're chasing, then uh, you got to buy another ticket for the next week, and it rolls over, and the prize just keeps growing and growing and growing. Um, a Chase the Ace fundraiser typically runs weekly. and you got to buy a ticket each week to be included. Um,
And if you
but
decide not to buy a ticket, you're just out.
Yep, you're just out for that particular week. You can always buy in the next week. Yeah, tickets are usually around $5 a person, or $5 a ticket. So you just throw a little money into the pot.
Can we say that number again?
eight
I don't know.
point $2 million.
That's 9 zeros.
Yeah, that's a lot of zeros. That's
Wow.
actually 5 zeros.
Oh, 5. Sorry.
Yeah,
I still
but
count cents, but never mind.
yeah, they've Danny and Muriel Robbins have always been buying tickets. Their son's always been buying tickets. But yeah, their number was chosen. They went in, they picked a card, they picked the ace, and there you go. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things where um, this one actually it was running for 47 weeks, so running for almost a year before somebody finally found the card. Yeah.
Amazing. So tell us about the refinancing in Clearwater.
So the Mi'kmaq First Nations that own half of Canadian seafood giant Clearwater are finally going to start seeing some cash flow from their investment thanks to loan refinancing that they managed to do. Premium Brands of Richmond, BC, lent a coalition of seven Mi'kmaq First Nations about $240 million to cover their equity purchase in Clearwater Seafood back in 2020. But at the time that they granted them that loan, um, they were charging them 10% on it, which is a goodly chunk of change. Premium had agreed to refinance about $100 million of that debt through the First Nations Financial Authority, or FNFA, and they've lowered the interest rate to 4.2%. What that means now is the Membertou First Nation in Cape Breton, who lead that, um, because they were able to renegotiate, means that they're going to be paying out less money, which means there's more cash flow for the community, and they may be actually able to realize some of the benefits for their investments sooner.
Tell us about the power outage in Windsor.
So yeah, for those of you who are in Windsor, apologies, but 350 Windsor City Hall Square will reopen on Wednesday. That building, along with 400 City Hall Square, were shut down Tuesday because of what was originally labeled as a blown underground transformer. There was actually a fire that is now being listed as a cable malfunction in an underground conduit that broke out just before 7 a.m. Tuesday. So, yeah, things have been quiet at City Hall for the past couple of days. Municipal staff do say uh, that they should be back to work and the backlog should be cleared relatively quickly. Um, but services like the Provincial Offences Court, Service Ontario, and Service Canada are not currently accessible.
Tell us about the rain and the high temperatures that could cause a lot of snow and water to move.
So uh, temperatures are up. Thank goodness. It's not nearly as punishingly
All the way up
cold as
to
it was
one
over the weekend.
degree here, so I'm not
No,
digging out my shorts just yet.
no, no. The sandals are firmly staying in the closet. But the good news is for Southern Ontario, there's been a bit of a thaw. It's going to be running through until possibly Thursday afternoon, Friday evening. Um, we'll be looking at approximately 10 to 15 millimeters worth of rain, which is going to take care of all of that snow. It's also going to wash all the salt off the road, so you're going to have to be a little careful if you're going to be out there driving.
Yeah, that's an issue. Let's talk about Danielle Smith. She eyes an Alberta middleman for federal city deals.
So we mentioned this story on Monday about how the Alberta government was looking into how much money different cities were receiving from the federal government. The things that they're currently looking to figure out by month end is how much money the village of Rycroft received from Ottawa for a Canada Day pancake breakfast back in 2022, and how much Strathmore got for fireworks. As well, they want to know the terms of any lawn mowing or snow removal agreement between the city of Cold Lake and the Air Force Base, as well as the length of any RCMP building leases with the towns of Two Hills and Three Hills, and the date by which Canada Post has to renew its rental deals for the tiny patches of land it uses for community mailboxes in Edmonton, Calgary, Lethbridge, Fort Mac, and for the sake of thoroughness, um, every other municipality. Um, it the province apparently wants to know all about funding arrangements uh, between a federal government it publicly distrusts and the municipal level it constitutionally controls. This is um, one of those things where the Alberta Municipal Affairs Office is describing its request as an overview to understand the scope and scale of how deep the fingers are of the federal government into the Alberta pie, as it were. I'm not sure why they're doing this. I think they're looking to drive a wedge, and as part of their bid to separate themselves from Canada and from the CPP, figure out how much more money they can get.
Yeah, more issues in Edmonton. Edmonton City Hall shooter was heavily armed, says the police chief.
Now, the police chief of Alberta's capital says a heavily armed man allegedly acted alone on Tuesday when he entered City Hall, fired shots, and threw a Molotov cocktail from the building's second floor. Um, Dale McPhee told reporters that a man entered the Edmonton City Hall parkade and fired shots with a long gun, shattering glass in the building. He then created a small fire outside the elevator. Um, the unarmed security guard acted quickly to detain the suspect before police arrived minutes after officers were called. There is no longer a threat to public safety. The individual has been taken into custody.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Vancouver bus and sea bus services set to resume after 48 hours strike.
So, as per a story that we mentioned on Monday, they are actually set to go back to work. However, the union representing transit supervisors for Coast Mountain Bus Company has announced it's going to launch a new 72-hour strike, stopping Metro van buses from operating if a tentative agreement on a new contract isn't reached by next week. CUPE Local 4500 said that it welcomed the appointment of Vince Reddy, but if a deal on a new contract for about 180 supervisors wasn't reached by midnight on February 3rd, after having gone back to work, um, after that first 48-hour strike, they're going to withdraw services for 72 hours.
Well, that's well, hopefully they'll work things out. Let's go back to the Leafs. And what do you think of this enforcer that says he's healthy and Keefe says he isn't? Apparently, he's back in the team on the team.
Yeah, that was an interesting one for me, especially after he was talking to the reporter that he was talking to, that's actually employed by one of the owners of the team. But he mentioned that he does have loose knees, and has mentioned that occasionally in the mornings his knees would pop and go out, so he wears braces pretty much all the time. You saw how he injured himself, correct, Frank?
No, I don't remember.
Well, he went into the board.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, but there was some concern because it appeared that he collapsed going down the steps into the Leafs dressing room off the back of the bench there. He says he's good to go. Says he can't imagine playing without his braces on. But there's still some doubt. I'm reminded of players like Joffrey Lupul, who said that they were ready to go. I'm reminded of other players that have, James Van Riemsdyk was another guy that there was a lot of rumor about how much prep work he required before he was ready to go onto the ice before every game. I mean, if Reeves says he's ready and the Leafs medical staff clears him, by all means, I'm more than happy to. I don't want to see him declare himself ready and then come back and within 2 minutes of starting a game, end up on Robidoux Island because he hurts himself. That's just not the way you want to go out, right?
Absolutely not. I couldn't agree more. But I also wonder, and this is more or less speculation on my part, and I apologize for the fact that it's speculation. He wants to play real bad, and it wouldn't be the first time that we've had a player come back to play. It doesn't matter what sport. They don't want to sit down. They want to go out and play, and then it happens from time to time that they not just re-aggravate an injury, but they make it worse. And this is something that Uh, we also have to consider there's this part too. We have seen players complain, right, and go to the NHLPA and say they're playing me and I'm hurt.
Yeah, I find it interesting that this is sort of a reverse situation. You know,
Absolutely.
um,
The exception that makes the rule, I think, Aaron.
and again, like I said, if he comes back and he blows out a knee on the first shift,
Whose fault is it?
hmm?
Whose fault is it?
Exactly. Is
A
it the medical
career-ending
staff
injury
fault?
happens. Whose fault is it? Well, they should have known better. Why'd they play me?
Well, you said you were better. We believed you.
Yeah, but
Apparently, your
the
mouth made the
doctors,
right noises to our doctors, so they cleared you.
didn't say you were ready, and you made the right noises. You're exactly right. No, this is the problem with professional sports, and there is a players' association that's built and exists for the protection of the players. Well, unless there's a player hits another player, then the protection goes to the one that does the hitting. But usually they do care about the players, right? And that's their job. And the ownership and or the management team cannot afford to put a guy on the ice whom they feel is not healthy. Now, some may suggest well, the Leafs don't want to play him because when he goes on the ice, the other team scores. They don't like that relationship with his ice time correlating with goals being scored by the other team. But if he isn't healthy and he's not skating the way he can, that contributes to that. So it's a very complicated situation. And if he protests and says I can play, the good news for the Leafs is the concern that they may have gets wiped out, because then what happens is if he gets injured and his career's over for whatever reason, they finally realize he doesn't have a career. They at least can say, well, we didn't want him to play, but he convinced our doctors, like you said, that he should play. So, this is an interesting situation, and I wouldn't assume that the Leafs are playing Robidas Island on the guy, and I wouldn't assume that the guy doesn't know he's ready to play. You know what I mean? But what I would assume is that this is a very sensitive situation that could lead to some really bad news. That's the bottom for me. That's scroll down to there, boys.
I mean, quite frankly speaking, sometimes the players do need to be protected from themselves.
Absolutely.
It's not out of the realm of possibility that he's overestimating his ability. Um, 3 days in a row where you can get up out of bed without having issues with your knees is not necessarily the cure that you think it is. I mean, he's not exactly in bad company. He's sitting with Murray, Klingberg, Wall, and Tyler Bertuzzi is currently listed as day to day as
Yeah,
well.
I wanted to talk about him as well. Yeah,
So,
and
what did I miss when it came to Bert?
the Bertuzzi,
Yeah.
I missed it too, but I'll try and figure out what it is. I'm looking here at TSN, and they're saying, let's see, da 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 da, and they're not talking about him.
Well, I know that Keefe had originally said that he was playing at less than 100%, but um,
So
he was
it could be
designated to the non-roster list a little earlier today. Um,
it could be maintenance.
it's entirely that. However, I do have another reason here. I believe he's away with the team to be with his wife to await the birth of their child.
Well, there you go.
So there you go. It's non-insidious.
No, see, I didn't assume it was, and there you go. So he'll be back. He's day to day because she's day to day.
Exactly. But yeah, according to Jonas Siegel of the Athletic, um, Bertuzzi is listed as being away for personal reasons, and as a result, Ryan Reeves has been activated from injured reserve to make sure that they have all the players. Now, I was checking out the line rushes for today, and I'm not seeing Reeves in there. I am seeing Nyes up on the first line with Matthews and Marner, and I am seeing Holmberg with Tavares and Nylander, and Robertson is drawing back in with Domi and Yarncroke, as well as McMahon, Kampf, and Gregor on the fourth line. And then you've got the usual suspects: Riley and Brody, McCabe and Liljegren, and Simone Benoit with Connor Timmins, who is still up with the team. So that should prove to be interesting on the back end, for at least for tonight's game, for sure.
Okay, let's switch over and have a little fun and check out what the Orange Blowhardo is doing. Um, uh, the guy is I don't know. I don't you ask yourself, it's like if I could compare politically speaking, uh, his existence right now as a politician and what he's doing right now, you know, his career, if he was a goaltender, his goals against average would be like 21.22.
I, it's just one of those weird situations where it's a cult of personality, but his personality is terrible. There was a DoD Inspector General report found a severe lack of control over prescription medicines at the White House pharmacy during Donald Trump's tenure. So yeah, there's that.
But
There
he
was
doesn't
his
do drugs.
there well, not the illegal kind, but I'm sure he knows about his Adderall addiction. There's also, his Diet Coke button. Um,
Well, that in itself is something that, and his KFC fetish.
yeah, and his propensity to throw ketchup.
And also plates of spaghetti.
So, according to this here, the pharmacy staff regularly prepared go bags of prescription medication for White House staff in advance of overseas trips, including Ambien or Provigil, and typically both. Um, so they would make up these packets, and there'd be like 5 tablets in a Ziploc baggie, and they'd hand them out. Ambien is a sedative used to treat insomnia. Provigil is a stimulant used to treat narcolepsy. Both are controlled medications. I'm not sure what the advantage would be of taking them both together. Um, but the White House apparently spent over 46 grand for brand named Ambien, which is 175 times more expensive than the generic equivalent, and an estimated $98,000 from Provigil, which is 55 times more expensive than the generic equivalent. So they're going whole hog on the Ambien and the Provigil there, or Provigil, whatever you want to call
Is there anything in there with the blue pill? I'm
it.
just asking.
Not that I can
I don't
see,
care.
but I don't want to know.
Well, he might need to pee straight.
I got to tell you, what was actually interesting was the UAW actually came out and endorsed Biden today.
What a surprise! Shocker,
Right?
shocker, shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, here's the difference. It's becoming clear to me, and you can agree or disagree. They're both getting old. For
There is
Biden,
no doubt.
right? There's no debate there. But it appears that the way Biden's getting old is his mobile capacity is clearly affected by his age. He's not, you ain't going to see this guy click his heels, right? On the other hand, you might see Trump click his heels. But when he starts to talk, you'll begin to understand that there's something going on there. There's something going on with that guy. I mean, he's making mistake upon mistake upon mistake, referring to Nikki Haley as Pelosi and, Nancy Pelosi. He beat Obama in his election. All these things he's saying, which the people on his side don't care. They're talking about old age. I'd be more worried. I don't care if the Americans have had a president in a wheelchair. In other words, an immobile president. And they kept it a secret for obvious reasons. Well, by those standards in the last century. But I don't care. I don't care about his mobility. Mobility is not my biggest concern.
Yeah, exactly that.
So and still though, there's this, when you consider the percentage of population that's 80, and you can understand why a very large segment of society in the US thinks that these two old men should park it and move on. And you can't blame them for saying that. That's, because the there aren't many people over 80. There are a hell of a lot of people under 80. And they can relate to being under 80 a lot more than over 80. But
Oh,
then
for
you got
sure.
did you hear the comment from the audience when Nikki Haley was talking about, because she keeps saying about, losing, they're getting old, they're losing their facilities. That's what happens when you get old. And this nice old lady's in the crowd. She goes, "You know who you're talking to, right? They're all old people.
Oh,
You know
you
who
know
you're
what?
talking to."
I did have a little bit of hope for Nikki Haley in New Hampshire when she won Dixville Notch, but other than that, I'm not holding out much hope here.
Well,
Uh,
the consensus of the people who support Biden in the media is that they would rather him go against Trump. And there are those in the right side, the opposite side of that group, who don't realize they'd have a better chance with her running for president. And they might accidentally back into it because Trump is flaming out. I don't care what anybody says. He is literally flaming out.
so my last thoughts on this, Frank, before we go, are if Trump flames out and Nikki Haley takes over, does she then get DeSantis to run as VP, or does she just avoid that tire fire altogether?
Uh, you know, she would have to, she would probably, a move that she could make that would help her, in all serious, my serious answer is she would have to do much like what Trump did. Find somebody, from the Christian right,
Hmm.
and have them run with her, because she's not very strong in that area, in my opinion. And that's what Trump did, and it was a brilliant move on their part.
So get another evangelical, or see if Mike Pence will stand again.
No, be an evangelical. I don't. That would be hilarious if Pence got asked. That would be hilarious.
Although I think it'd be interesting to see if she'd ask Joel Osteen to run too.
Yeah, or it could be Sununu. They're
That's
they're
fair.
they're buddy buddy now.
Put it this way, I'd rather see that than what they've currently got available to them. So
Well, the Democrats would have a problem if Trump doesn't run against Biden. They will have a problem. I'm convinced of that, just because people don't care about. See, the problem in politics, and we're learning it in every election more and more. It's not issues that drive the electorate. It's personality. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
here in Canada, it's the same thing. It's not what Trudeau has done. It's it's who he is that makes people hate him. They hate him because of who he is. What he's done, yeah, there's some stuff, but I think it boils down to more than just policy. It's him. Resentment of Trudeau, maybe the name Trudeau. I don't know, but I sense a lot of resentment.
Well, we'll have to see how that goes in the next election.
All right, thanks for doing this, buddy.
Thanks, Frank.
All right, he's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, Aaron, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget Candid Frank Stanisci on YouTube. See, I'm getting old, but I didn't screw that up. Next time, we'll see you.